Let's record.
We're live. Yay. All right. We're live on TikTok. Let's get it.
Perfect. We're ready to record as well. So hello everyone, welcome to Hospitality Huddles. And today I'm really excited because up until now on the show, we've focused on people like things like employees and revenue and bits like that. But we've got a really, really important subject today, which is how we can be more effective on social media and use AI and ChatGPT and things like that. So I really want to welcome Heather Cox of Heather Cox Codes. Heather, really nice to be here with you.
Hi. Thank you so much, Scott. This is so cool. And it's really cool that we met through Clubhouse and then like the LinkedIn audio. So I just think, and that's all social media. So it's going to be a good conversation today for sure. So thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. And we should shout out to the digital hospitality room as well while we're both here. Otherwise it would not be fair, would it? So in true form of digital hospitality, we always get 60 seconds to say who we are and what we do. So over to you on this, because you'll explain it much better than I will.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. For everybody who doesn't know me, my name is Heather Cox of Heather Cox Codes. I am a social media manager and strategist, WordPress website designer, search engine optimization and social media optimization professional, content creator, also an AI marketing professional, also a host of a micro podcast called Into the Black, which is coming back in March. I'm also a host of a audio space on LinkedIn called Dark Mode, which happens at 12 p.m. EST today. And I'm also a 2-time TEDx speaker. And I love AI and technology and social media. I'm a big old nerd. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. And I think, I don't know what's happened, but just recently, not only were you active on social media anyway, but it just seems to have ramped up with your content. And the video today for the new podcast was brilliant. It made me smile. So I'm really excited about this one. So let's get straight into some of the questions and we'll get down to the nitty gritty. So we'll kind of kick it off in terms of social media and, you know, the way it's used in restaurants and the way that it's used as a tool. I really want to try and challenge kind of the typical approaches and really encourage restaurateurs, hoteliers that I work with to think outside the box when it comes to social media. I'll talk about an example that I had yesterday, which is the perfect example. And I'll let you talk more about what you think on this. But I was with a director of sales and marketing yesterday in a hotel, and I'd just been listening to Gary Vee on the way in, and he was saying that the way to make a presence online in 2024 was to go live. So I was sitting with them going, listen, guys, how do we go live? Because Gary Vee is doing it. I've just watched him literally go live for an hour doing a team meeting. How can we do that in restaurants? And they got really scared about just turning on a camera and letting it film of people, which, considering you're doing exactly the same thing now, just goes to show live is the way forwards. But it's just a great example, isn't it? Our restaurants, hotels, people like that, we always play a little bit safe, but there's so much opportunity out there to think differently. So over to you on this. Give us the elevator pitch on how you can use it as get away from traditional restaurant marketing and really start thinking outside of the box.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of traditional marketing for restaurants and the traditional use of social media, I feel as though that restaurants have kind of gotten comfortable in what they have been using social media for over the last decade, which is a feed post, food images, static images, maybe some like longer, maybe shorter captions, maybe not captions at all, people not using any hashtags, no local hashtags. So they're just doing the bare minimum and they're relying on the old school social media tactics that once worked. You know, back in the day, Facebook, you would post about your lunch sitting at your desk and it would get like 50 likes and a bunch of comments about you eating at your desk. But now that doesn't do anything, right? We want to integrate more video, like you said, more lives. And yes, restaurants and hotels kind of do get a little scared when they're like, oh, I have to go live, and they don't know really how to go live. And I'm going to give everybody two really good tips that they haven't implemented yet. And I'm trying to get the Delaware restaurant industry to implement it, which is having a content phone for your establishment, not relying on people's personal content phones, their personal phones, and saying, hey, just text that to the owner. And a lot of the times restaurant owners don't like for their employees to have phones on the floor. It takes away from the hospitality aspect and you helping the customer. So having a content phone behind the bar, by the POS system, hanging out in the manager's office with like a big yellow tape on it that says content phone, well, then you can share that with your employees, the bartender, the manager, maybe do a selfie when you get like a food drop from US Foods or your liquor promote, whoever it is, use that content phone, go live with the content phone. And then another, I think a really great way to go live is don't go live with yourself, because a lot of restaurant owners don't like to be in front of the camera. They have other things to do. They're not ones to be out in the ether and in the promotional product. But going live, and I had this really cool idea where if you go live and you order a ton of food and you do that really cool flat lay of all the food, and then you take a ring light and put your camera like this, so it's looking down at the food, and you go live, but then you just have a ton of people grabbing their fork, putting the fork in the food. You don't see their faces, but you hear them experiencing the food, saying, yum, this is good. Oh my God, those Brussels sprouts were amazing. Let me grab that. And you see them with their fork hitting it. There's so many cool things that you can do with live that traditional marketing really doesn't capture, and that now with the what I call the verticalization of social media, more vertical video and more vertical lives are going to be what is going to bring in those eyeballs. So traditional marketing is great. It'll only get you so far. But if you add in the newer video, newer humanization tactics of social media, and that including live, will help you kind of increase your marketing with, and also get more eyeballs on your content without using, like the owner's face or having to be like the influencer of your restaurant, essentially. So, and I can see why people get scared, because they don't want to be the influencer of their restaurant or their entity. So, yeah, just kind of thinking outside the box, I guess, in regards to going live.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those, isn't it? When I just recently went to Australia on holiday, we were looking at restaurants to go and visit, and you would go on to you'd use search engine, Google, YouTube, TikTok to kind of find out who were the places people were talking about, and then you go and almost authenticate that conversation either on Instagram or TikTok. And I kept finding myself not going to the feed, but I kept finding myself to go to where people were tagged, especially on Instagram, to see what other people were getting. Because I think that whole thing around authenticity, being genuine, showing that the restaurant actually is busy, not just kind of showing pictures of food and things like that. It helps reinforce the message that I'm reading in CN Traveler, Eater, Infatuation, all these type of people there as well. So I think when you're then talking about lives and just going live over a flat lay and things like that, it's really showing that you love what you do. You're not scared about showing it authentic and genuine. And then for that, then I think it really helps to kind of reaffirm that social proof to the guest, right? And I think that's what people need to start trying to embrace, is how can we show that what they see on glossy pictures from the photographer and all the rest of it is actually what's delivered in reality, isn't it? And I think some of those methods really make a big difference.
For sure. Yeah.
So in terms of kind of, we've got some good ones on live and a bit unconventional from that perspective, but what other kind of campaigns and strategies have you done with some of your clients that's helped them kind of, whether that's increased brand awareness, raising revenue, or increasing guest count? What are some of those things that you've done previously?
Right. So really leaning into the social events, like the Taylor Swift Chiefs Super Bowl, right? Like that is a social cultural moment that everybody should be capitalizing on. So if you're not playing Taylor Swift songs at your bar on Sunday, you're doing it all wrong. So capitalizing on those social moments, right? Like, Barbie, Summer of Barbie, Eras Tour, the rise of women in business and in hospitality, just those cultural moments, but then also looking at the landscape of how things are created. And I'm a Bravo girly. I love watching Bravo, like the Real Housewives. And there's this really cool show called Southern Hospitality, where they actually are behind the scenes at multiple restaurants in Charleston. And the way that Bravo does their video is actually, I can see a correlation between how videos are now being created on TikTok and Instagram, that highly stylized with music and all that stuff. So just thinking about what is popular now, what the younger generation is doing, okay? Because the boomers really don't, sorry, but the boomers really don't have that outside of the box thinking. So we really need to tap into that younger generation, because they really are doing some amazing freaking things. And shout out to my TikTok community, because they inspire me every single day. And so one of the campaigns that I did was last year, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. And so because of that, Delco, which is Delaware County, Pennsylvania, Delco, they have their own lingo, their own vibe. And so we really leaned into that Delco type, verbiage, and, they say crick and instead of creek. And, they just have this type of different words they use, but also there's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know if you know that show. It is hilarious, but they're all big Birds fans. So we actually leaned into using that type of lingo, that type of verbiage, the music from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, to promote coming in to get some beer, wings. We're having a Super Bowl brunch happening, like just leaning into the social landscape that you see on social media and in marketing and in media, utilizing that to capitalize, to twist that into something that you can use for your own business. I think that's one of my favorite things to do for different campaigns for social media, because it's fun. It's unique. Nobody else is doing it. It's, and people are like, yo, this is like fire. Like I wish I could show, I'll send you the video, because like some of these videos are hysterical, and they're like, who is your social media person? Like, it's like, cause it's fun and it's eye catching. And if you're unique and do something different, then people are going to gravitate towards it, and they're going to latch onto you because you're doing something completely different outside of the box that nobody else is doing.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that you talk about the younger generation and follow what they're doing, because some of the things that I often say to my clients when we're working on projects is that, generally when you're talking to directors of sales and marketing and kind of higher executive level, they're more strategic in what they're doing. And it's about how can you use what the team are doing on a daily basis in their everyday lives, on the way to work, on the way home from work, how they're doing things, to bring that into the workplace environment and start creating content that is relevant to their audience as well, isn't it? And it's using those skills and embracing them, sometimes over agencies. And why? Because I sometimes feel that it can get a little bit too strategic. And actually the implementation and looking at things differently doesn't necessarily flow through. And that's what I've always loved listening to you on some of the digital hospitality rooms, is that what you do is impacting the floor in terms of tangible ways to do social media that can deliver results at the end. So I think that's one of the key tips for me, for people listening, is how do you embrace people who know more than you about the platforms that you don't know, and how can you bring them into those conversations to get more content produced by other people, isn't it?
Yeah. And I want to say, like, you're talking about people at the top levels, not and thinking too strategic, but with social media, you must have a strategy, a tech strategy, to understand the algorithm. But also, I really feel as though that the tactics and media and the way things are created, that were created by the younger generation of Gen Z, but also Gen Alpha. I mean, I have 3 Gen Alpha kids. They are leaps and bounds. They are so smart, but to incorporate that type of thinking into the higher level strategies, I think needs to be implemented, so that the restaurant industry doesn't continue to go down this track of becoming stale, essentially.
Yeah. So when I talk to a lot of my clients, some of the things that they're nervous about in terms of trying things new is how it's perceived by guests and how it's perceived online, and the fact that there's a digital footprint left there and things like that. How do you go about experimenting with new ideas and new approaches to keep marketing fresh and to keep the content relevant and new, but still have that piece of going, do you know what, if it doesn't work, it's fine, we can move on and we do something else? How do you work with that? Because I know it's a roadblock that I see quite often.
For sure. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are a little nervous to try new things and let a social media strategist and content creator kind of take over and kind of like do implement some new things. What I say to that is you will not stand out if you do not put yourself out there and try new things. So, you may have a restaurant, ABC Diner over here, but then you may have XYZ Italian eatery next door. And ABC Diner is sticking to the feed, one post of their food a day, no stories, no videos, but they have, they've been in the business for 20 years and they're a hometown local like favorite, right? But they're still doing the same thing. But then the Italian eatery, well, they're doing brand new, but they're doing some cool ass shit. They are doing video. They are getting it, like interviewing employees, like they're doing behind the scenes. They're doing really cool graphical transitions. That's going to get more eyeballs than just the normal static posting informational info. And I know people are scared to kind of go outside the box, but the red tape is the problem that stifles the creativity, and the red tape makes people nervous. They're all worried about what are the lawyers going to say? How is this going to be perceived by our customers or even our people who provide us liquor and food? Like, how are they going to perceive it? Well, if they know you as a restaurateur and that you're innovative within your industry of being a restaurateur, well, then you should also expect some innovative marketing tactics to come from that innovative restaurateur. You shouldn't be bogged down by the red tape. And when I work with clients, a lot of my clients let me do whatever I want. Because they see the results. So I'll put out a piece of content. I work with a client called Realcomm, and they're over in California. They're one of the longest running real estate technology conventions for 25 years. And they brought me on to kind of like freshen things up. They've never done video. They didn't really lean into social. So I was like, hey, I'm going to make some graphics. I'm going to make some moving elements, some videos, some short form videos, and I'm going to come to your conference and I'm going to do all this social media stuff. And they didn't ask for it. I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to show you, I'm going to implement. And because I've done that, they are like, you have taken us to new levels that we could never imagine. And, we want you to try new, exciting, innovative marketing things because we've seen the success. So you need to kind of have a little faith when it comes to content creators and social media strategists, because we're just not here like, going to be posting about your dog because you have a dog. Like, we're going to be posting about the fact that you may have a dog, but you also offer a pup cup or a dog menu at your restaurant. And so we tie that back, and that may be something innovative, but it also talks to your goals and also the things that you offer at your restaurant. So just take a leap of faith. That's what I have to say. Take a leap of faith. And then if you see that it works, continue. Don't just say, okay, that worked. What else can we do? No, if it works, you stick with it and you continue with the consistency and the frequency of what works.
Yeah, that's a really good. And you started touching on that, but the next thing I wanted to talk about was storytelling, because obviously storytelling is such an important part to play. And I think often when I see social media, it's almost like it's just, here's our food, here's what our restaurant looks like, here's what like the chef's doing today, and there's not necessarily a story that takes the guest on the journey through the feed or through the how important is storytelling to capture attention, and how important is it to make sure that that story continues through every platform that you're in? Because obviously you have to change tactics on different platforms as well.
Mhm. So, I mean, with the storytelling aspect, if you want it to all be very cohesive across all platforms, you want to make sure that the branding's on point. You don't want to make sure that like if you're putting a purple video with a purple logo, you don't want to go over to Instagram and put a green logo with a green video, right? You want to make sure that it's all consistent across platforms. But storytelling, there's different types of storytelling. There's the brand story through the colors and the vibe and the copy and the, whatever. And then there's the story of the owner and the journey of that. There's the story of the employee. There's the story of the dishwasher, the cook, the chef. There's so many different stories. So what story do you want to tell today? Do you want to tell the story of the, dishwasher turned, general manager? That's a great story. Do you want to talk about, here's a personal story. I almost lost my job at the age of 20 because I was dealing with alcoholism. And I went to the managers of the restaurant I was working at and say, hey, they were going to let me go. And I was like, hey, like I am personally going through something right now. I'm trying to get over this alcoholism. And if you could work with me. And they did. And I literally like moved up the ranks with that restaurant at the age of 22. So like, just think about the different stories that are within your restaurant that can be told that kind of humanizes your brand. And again, storytelling, there's so many different stories to tell, from your brand story to its inception, to the dishwasher, to the cook, to the server, to the owner, to, the providers, to the liquors, like all the things. There's so many different stories. You just need to find which story works best for your brand and for your company.
Yeah, and so if someone's listening to this and they're sitting there and they're struggling for revenue and they look at their social media right now and they're like, it's just post after post, there's no story. Where should you start? Is it as easy as just kind of going live on things and just taking pictures and starting to show a bit more kind of authenticity behind it? Or do you need to sit there and really curate what you're going to do? Like, what's your opinion on restaurants? Because sometimes they want these beautiful timelines, don't they? And beautiful feeds, but actually it doesn't really tell the guest anything versus something that's a bit more natural that can just take people on a journey. Where would you sit on that?
So I like a good balance, right? Because social media is about informing people, but then also telling a story and building that community. So you need to kind of strike a balance. So yes, post that flyer about your Sunday brunch, but then go take a video of people enjoying their Sunday brunch. Go grab some video of people like, getting their forks and knives into that really ooey gooey egg. Like there's so many ways that you can promote yourself and put yourself out there that is really interesting, but also it's not just like the same old of doing things. And again, I feel like hotels, hospitality, restaurants, and the tourism industry, they all are kind of just like stuck in that old school mentality of just let's post the food and like let's post the front of our store. Like that's not really doing anything. You need to get the human element in there, even if the human element is just your hand. I've noticed that some content where if I'm recording the front of a restaurant, that doesn't get a lot of engagement. But if I'm using the video walking up to the restaurant and opening the door with my hand, that's going to get more engagement because there's that human element. It doesn't matter if it's a hand, feet, your top of your hair, like whatever it is, adding just that little piece of human element will elevate your already existing content. And plus the algorithm loves to see human element. It's strange. It's like the tiled flyers, like a lot of people put like wings on Sunday, 12 to bed, and it's like just the text. That doesn't get a lot of engagement. Those graphics don't, hardly at all. The only ones that I see do get engagement are the reviews. So if you write like a review tile, people love that. They eat it up. It's bonkers. But if you add a human element, like your hand inside a food photo, for some reason, the algorithm picks it up and it's like, oh, there's a human in there. Okay, we'll push that out. So just think about how you can add that human element without actually like showing your face, so you don't have to keep posting these static food photos over and over again.
Yeah, that's a brilliant tip. That's a brilliant tip. I mean, it's funny when we were on the digital hospitality room the other night, and I was sharing an example of how I'd had a team meeting talking about getting more content, and I forgot to get content of us having that meeting about content. And I was sat on the train on the way home. I was like, oh my God, well, how did I manage to do that? And I think it's just that piece there. And then Sean Walchef said, do the whole thing of walking into venues at the start. So if you start getting busy, you still get the content. And I tried it yesterday and, just walked into the venue, and it seems like a nothing thing, but I had so many people liking the posts and things like that. So it really does show, doesn't it, that even sometimes just the simplest thing people can be engaged with, and it makes such a difference. So even if it's just the chef walking into work on a morning, and what have you, or like you said, he greets the delivery guy at the back door. It's just that it's back to that authenticity and that storytelling of what goes on in the daily life. It's like back of house storytelling, isn't it?
Yeah, and a lot of people I've seen that they're actually implementing GoPros. So they're in the back of the line and they maybe have like a GoPro on their head or on their shirt, on their whatever, and they're just recording, getting content while they're just working. And then they can download that video, they can chop it up, edit. But like, I believe it's just like that we need to utilize the tools that we have so that we can increase the speed of implementation on this content, because that's, I believe, the biggest struggle is everybody's so busy on the back of the line, expediting, doing like the back of house, front of house, and like payroll, all that stuff. Restaurateurs don't have time for that, but get a GoPro. I'm even thinking about, and I bought one, didn't really work. Gonna try again. There's this little like drone that follows you because you have your app, and it just hovers and it follows you. So like, I'm going to try to use that at the convention down in Florida. I really want to try to get it. If like, I'm going to go do networking, I could just have this drone just like following me and recording me. Cause I don't want to have an assistant. I can't have an assistant follow me all the time. And some people don't want people following them around with a camera. Why not have like a little drone that's powered by AI getting their content for you? So
it's genius, isn't it? It's like some of the, you see some of these fly-throughs now in like real estate guys doing fly-throughs with drones and stuff like that. Like, if you can imagine on a busy Saturday night, just flying a drone through the restaurant and just doing some real good pan stuff, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
I wanna mention, because I love Bravo, like I said, and I watch Vanderpump Rules, and that's about a restaurant. There's all the people working at the restaurant and all the storytelling of the employees. And how they do their opening is they have the, servers or whatever, just holding the drink and somebody pouring a cocktail. And they literally have this drone flying through the restaurant, getting the shot. So in the beginning, now that is their opening, where they're flying through one restaurant, then they go to the other restaurant, and then they go up on Lisa Vanderpump, who owns the whole entire thing. And it's just like, I realized they did that because they did a behind the scenes video of the drone going through the restaurant and how they made their opening. Like, there's so many cool ways and cool things that you guys could do. And I feel as though that a lot of this is brought on by the younger generation consuming Bravo TV. I don't care what anybody says. I have been watching Bravo for so long. And if I can give a tip to anybody, if you want to understand music, media, transitions, watch Bravo. I don't know why, but I watch it and everybody's like, your videos are so good. It's because I watch Bravo and I see what they're doing. So that's just like my insider tip. Go watch Bravo. Go watch a Real Housewives.
That is definitely the insider tip on that. So I want to move away from social media for a minute and talk about AI, because it's everywhere, right? I sent you the questions that we were going to go through today, and I was like, there's only one place I can go for these, because Heather loves AI, so I'm going to do it on AI. But restaurants were always scared to embrace digital stuff and new technology and things like that. Like, how are you seeing it impacting social media, the way people work, restaurants and hotels in general, and how can they embrace it to build their brand awareness? Because I know you've got some great stuff on this as well.
I do. I love this conversation so much. So I actually have gone a higher level with ChatGPT, more than like most people. So for all my restaurant clients, I actually have implemented custom GPTs for every single one. So, and including myself. So I created a custom GPT that sounds just like me, that has the vibe, has the emojis, has the copy, has all of the information already created. So if I need something done on the fly, so I have a restaurant group that I work with, and it's Valentine's Day coming up. Well, I needed some Valentine's Day graphics for an Italian restaurant. So what did I do? I went over to ChatGPT, went over to DALL-E. Well, actually, no, scratch that. I went over to my custom GPT that I made that is basically a caption to image generator. And it basically asks you 5 questions. And the question is like, what's the name of the client? What's the caption? What's the subject of the caption, what size do you want it in, and if there's any other parameters. And then it'll ask you for the art style. And that's one of the biggest things. I swear to God, if I see another glossy 3D looking AI generated image, I'm going to cry and throw up in my mouth. There's so many different art styles out there, from classicism to pop art to neoclassicism to digital art to so many things. I created my GPT that has 50 different loaded art styles in there, because I'm tired of seeing these glossy looking 3D images that aren't spelled right either. So what I did was, for the Valentine's Day, I needed an image. I didn't want to create it in Canva. So I went over to my custom GPT and I put in the caption, I put in the subject, which was Valentine's Day, and I gave it the parameters of, I want it pink, white, red, sparkles, champagne, and heart-shaped pasta. And it gave me this, I think like 4 or 5 images now, where I created this image, and now we can use that for our social media campaign. And it's beautiful. It's a watercolor. It's like, it looks like somebody painted it. So, just utilizing AI for speed of implementation, I think, is key. I've been doing this for almost 15 years. And before AI happened, I was writing all copy. I was writing all captions. I had to employ people to write captions. I had a client, it was 6 restaurant group. There are 30 captions per month times 6. That's 180 captions per month. That took 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But now with these custom GPTs, I can literally, I just click a button. It says, what content do you want to make? What month do you need it for? February 2024. And it spits out the whole entire content calendar for me, which I already preloaded in the back of the GPT. And then I can create, then I say, okay, and ask me, what topic do you want to make captions on? Okay, I'll just put Taco Tuesday. And then it'll give me 5 optimized captions with hashtags based on Taco Tuesday in the voice of the client. It's not this, GPT 3.5 where it keeps saying, we're diving into the digital landscape. Those words, it always likes to feign poetic, the GPTs. But putting in those banned hashtags, those words that sound like GPTs, putting that in there so that the client gets a unique copy hashtags to go with the visual that we just created. So it's not about taking people's jobs of, oh, they're going to replace my photographer and replace my marketing strategist. No, it's about speed of implementation, because that, I believe, is the problem with restaurants, is that speed of implementation is not that fast. And restaurants move at the speed of light. So you would think that the social media marketing also needs to happen at speed of light. So that's why I love AI, because it's really streamlined everything.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those. I use AI quite a bit as well and for the same thing as you, in terms of speed of implementation on concept development, elevator pitches, create me taglines and things like that. And it's that speed, isn't it? It's that amount of times you'd sit there, you'd write something, you'd go back and keep tweaking and evolving, and you get this in your fingertips. And I think a lot of the time it's just because people don't quite understand how to write a good prompt. Maybe they've not researched it enough. They're trying to get away with using the free chat GPT, etc., etc. And what are your tips on that in terms of being able to utilize it? Because I guess some of those things we just mentioned are really important out there for people to implement.
Yeah. So let's say take DALL-E, for example. I can go over to DALL-E and say, make me a 1080 by 1080 picture of champagne, and it'll give it to me. But the champagne logo may be wrong. It may be spelled wrong. It may look super glossy. It may not be in the right aspect ratio. There's so many different things. So really getting niched down when you prompt, really to the granular. And I implore people to look up computational thinking. So I attended Harvard University online for computer sciences for business professionals. I'm certified in that. And I had a project about computational thinking and algorithms. And I had to create an algorithm for the process of making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I failed this project like 3 times because and I finally passed. But because I didn't go granular enough. So I had to say, okay, well, what's the process of a peanut butter jelly sandwich? They literally wanted you to say, take out the peanut butter, take out the jelly, put it on the table, grab your knife. Well, then they came back to me and they were like, well, you didn't open the jar. And so now I'm just sitting here stabbing the knife with the top of the jar. And that's why I failed, because it's like, I missed a step. I had to open the jar. So then I said, okay, we opened the jar. And then you grab the knife. They failed me and came back and said, I grabbed the knife by the wrong end and I'm cut myself and I have blood all over the floor. You failed. Do it again. And I was like, so thinking about how computational thinking relates to prompting, right? So you can say, give me 5 captions for ABC Diner about Fried Chicken Friday. It'll give you the most basic, generic social media caption ever with horrible emoji placements and optimized hashtags that don't do anything for you. But if you say, give me 5 social media captions for ABC Diner in a friendly tone of voice from the owner's perspective about the specials they have on Fried Chicken Friday, located in Wilmington, Delaware, and include the branded hashtag ABC Diner and 3 topical hashtags that relate to the topic of Fried Chicken Friday, in addition to adding 3 topical emojis that have to do with Fried Chicken Friday, staying under 55 words. That will give you an amazing, unique caption that are optimized with the proper emojis, hashtags, perception, like whoever we're talking about, if it's from the owner, if it's from a customer, and if it's in a friendly tone of voice. I know my custom GPT, my tone of voice is from Amanda Priestley of Devil Wears Prada. Like that's like the only way that I can like figure out what my tone of voice is. And that's like totally her. Like, she's like, why is nobody ready? Like that's me. So like thinking about your tone of voice and how you want to be perceived, but going super granular on that caption to give you that output that you really want.
Yeah, the way I got told about it once was think about your teaching your child how to do what you want the end result to be.
Right.
Back to that peanut butter sandwich, right? You'd sit there and
Correct.
go grab the jar. Now you have to take the lid off and get the knife, but don't get it by the blade, get it by the
Right.
handle. And I was told to think of it like you're explaining it to a child, and that's how I write my prompts. Is I
Mhm.
think I'm talking to my 4-year-old son about how
Right.
to open a restaurant, and it kind of helps with that. But it's really important as well, isn't it, to understand the different as you said, tone of voice, how to explain what that tone of voice is like, how to
Yeah.
describe the language that you want it to use for the different periods as well, because that's one of the things that I found I had to really research and delve into, was all those different ways of writing and
Now,
things
I
like
will
that.
say, and I will give everybody I love reverse engineering things with ChatGPT. It's one of my favorite things ever. So I will actually take a caption from a competitor that I really like, and I'll say, here's a caption. Write me a prompt that will give me this output. And then it'll write that prompt for me. And then I can save that prompt in a custom GPT and then literally just click one button. And then that prompt is saved on the back end. And I just have to click one button and it'll give me that output. So reverse engineering with GPT is my favorite thing ever.
That that's the second penny drop moment of the show so far, along with the lives and things. That yeah, brilliant. That is fantastic. That's a great way to look at it as well, I think. And how do you think people can utilize AI more in restaurants and
Mm,
hotels and things to be able to, help them with the social media and brand awareness?
yeah.
Because you've talked about obviously some of the images and things like that, but is there any other things that you're seeing with your clients that can help?
So what I really like to do is I like to, like I said, reverse engineer stuff with ChatGPT, and I'll actually go ask ChatGPT what their brand voice is. What are people saying about them? What are their reputation? What are they best known for? But then also you can see what are the trends around that area. What are people really leaning into? The other day I was at the Delaware Restaurant Association talking about video and AI marketing in the restaurant industry, and they were talking about how people are really they have not reached the pre-pandemic levels of eating out that they should have reached already, because people are, one, they don't have enough money to be going out. Two, they're staying in, they're eating in, so they're more about the home chef and those meal kits coming in, but also cooking at home, but then also going out to restaurants in the suburbs. So they're not going to those city restaurants anymore, they're looking for those smaller restaurants. So you can actually find those types of trends in your local area through the use of AI, which can give you really good ideas on the content that you should be making. So the other day I was on TikTok and there was somebody talking about the alcohol industry and how Gen Z is not really going out anymore, but they want to feel older, and how they're doing that is through dinner parties. So use that information. If you are a restaurant or a liquor store, you can create kits being like, hey, like this is our at home meal kit, throw your own dinner party, here's some like $5 off this wine to go with your dinner party. Like, utilize the social trends and utilize AI to find those trends so that you can craft your content and your social media content around that local trend to bring people in locally. Because, I was on the phone today with somebody. They're like, we get likes from California, but that's not going to bring people through the door. We're in Delaware. So it's like, yeah, like you really need to lean into the local trends and the local community through the use of AI, because AI is amazing. It's amazing. And then you can take like like the analytics from your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your Twitter, whatever, your X, sorry. And download that CSV file, put it over in a GPT in the analyzer and say, analyze this data for me, put it in a line graph, and let me know if there are any weaknesses, any strengths you see, any new copy we should be doing, any new content. AI is basically your assistant, and the restaurant industry really should be leaning into it for marketing, but also for like back of house stuff, like upload your whole entire, your food, oh my God, your checklists and stuff, and just like throw it in there, and then have that be like, okay, like I'm down, I lost 3 bottles of liquor this month and I can't account for it. Let me just take all of that data that I have from 2 years, throw it into GPT, let it analyze and say, okay, is there something specific like each month? Oh, we can't account for 3 bottles, and it happens every time at this month. So just think about how you can use AI to really analyze all of the aspects of your restaurant entity and not just social media marketing.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. We use it a lot to analyze sales mix. So we grab sales mixes and we get it to produce, the old menu engineering, the workhorse, the plow, and
Yeah.
etc. Because it's just it's super quick, and as you say, it visualizes things as well. But like, to go back onto my earlier, you have to pay for it because that's how you get the real value in it. So $20 a month isn't a lot for a
And I will
restaurant business.
say they have a new cloud. So I paid $20, but then I have the Heather Cox Code cloud, and I can invite my workers to that cloud. So I'm working in it. 3 other people are working in it. So whatever GPTs they create, I can actually go in and see what they're doing and say, okay, this GPT didn't work really well. I'm going to go edit it and fix it. But the cloud is great. They just implemented that where you can invite people and you pay per user. So right now I'm paying $60 a month for the cloud and then $20 for my own personal. I'm trying to get everything to the cloud. But if you are really if you like to collaborate and co-work, GPT cloud on the premium is top notch. Love it.
That's brilliant. So, I guess in terms of some of if we go back to social media for a bit, in terms of the underutilized features that you see with restaurant businesses and clients, what are some of those things that people maybe leave in the locker, leave in the settings side of things that they should be looking at to bring to the forefront of their strategy?
So stories on Instagram and Facebook, totally underutilized, especially Facebook stories, because you can actually add a link to that, and pre-schedule that link which is great. Instagram, you can't pre-schedule a link unless you have over 10K followers, which again, that's fine. I mean, but utilizing Meta Business Suite, to schedule things out, utilize those schedulers to schedule things out, because speed of implementation is key, but also planning ahead. So, for my clients right now, it's February. So we've already scheduled everything out for February for most of our clients. Some of them I do on a weekly basis because of, they have time sensitive information or, whatever. But we're already planning for March. So we're doing all of our March content, all of our March images, copy, hashtag, strategy, all of it. And then by the end of February, everything will be scheduled out for March. And then by March 1st, we're already working on April. So planning is going to help you with your speed of implementation, because if you're constantly doing things on the fly, well, you're never going to get caught up ever. That's just how it is. So planning, scheduling, stories, but also video. I mean, so the other day, like I said, I was just at the Delaware Restaurant Association doing a breakout session on video and AI marketing. And now literally I woke up today and there are probably 4 or 5, 6 restaurants that have never done video that have now done video, because they heard and they saw my slides and my tech stack or whatever, and now they're implementing it. And I'm like, yes. So like more video and just the storytelling aspect of video, humanize it, because that's really what are going to get people through the door. Utilizing your employees, like, ask them, do they want to be on camera? Sure. Okay. Well, now I'm going to grab my mini mic and be like, what's your favorite meal here at ABC Diner? And who do you want to eat it with? Oh, I love the fried chicken and I want to eat it with Mary. And then you're going to go over to Mary. Mary, I heard that Joe just loves fried chicken and wants to have some fried chicken with you. What's your favorite meal? Like, you utilizing your employees and having fun and capturing that fun and that vibe on the video, because that's going to translate into more people through the door. It always will, because people will see you're having fun. You're not a stuffy, like stick up your ass company. And that's the vibe. People want to vibe when they go out to eat. And I feel as though it's kind of getting a little stale. So everybody just needs to kind of wake it up and have more fun in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's a brand here in the UK called Pizza Pilgrims, and they've been doing it for years in terms of putting the people front and center on the social media. And so many people I know go there because they know that the staff and the team have fun because of how it's portrayed on social media, and that's their sole reason for going to that restaurant. So it just goes to show, like, that authenticity, putting people front and center can really get people to come to your restaurant.
You just jogged my memory about that one restaurant that likes to harass the customers and like call
Karen's Diner,
like water on them and stuff. Like, that is an experience. People want experiences because the COVID shut us out, man, for years, and we want to experience and live. And I feel like the restaurant industry and the hospitality and hotels really need to lean into that experiential social media and marketing to really create that experience that people want to feel, because we want to feel alive. You know what I mean? We like that dopamine hit.
Exactly. And the last question I want to ask you before we go is about hashtags. How important are hashtags, and where would someone start getting the ideal hashtags for them? Because I read a thing this year that said everyone should have their own hashtag this year, I think it was. So ours is Think Differently 2024. So what's the importance of it? What should people do about it? And I know you've got a great tool on this, so it's a good plug for your product as well.
So I am a huge proponent of my hashtag, Heather Cox Codes. Always there, always on the back of my car, everywhere. Because like you said, I guess 2024, everybody needs a branded hashtag. Well, branded hashtags have been around forever. It's just that nobody really knows how to utilize it. And I really utilize it as a call to action SEO tool. So if I'm driving around my state and I'm in a traffic jam, or if I'm waiting at the Starbucks, on the back of my car, I have my hashtag. So if people are sitting behind me in a red light, they're going to go, well, it's Heather Cox Codes. Let me just look that up on Google, or look that up on Instagram, or look that up on Facebook. It's everywhere. It's even on my website. It's even on my clients' websites in the footer saying website created and managed by hashtag Heather Cox Codes. So if you look up hashtag Heather Cox Codes on Google, you'll see all my social media profiles. You'll see media, because I actually ask media outlets to put that hashtag in there as well. And It's on my website, on my clients' websites, on my social, everywhere. So if you look, you'll see a literal portfolio within the Google search utilizing my hashtag. So think about how you as a business can utilize a branded hashtag. Now, the hashtag generator that I have is called Hash Creator. And basically, I was like, I'm so tired of using these apps that don't really focus in on the locale of a hashtag. They only focus in on like the broader hashtags like InstaFood and food porn and foodgasm. Like, that's not really helping me. Those are too large of hashtags. So with this Hash Creator, there's two sections. There's a hash generator for non-location based hashtags. And then there's a hashtag generator for location based hashtags for my local businesses, because local hashtags are very important in regards to social media search engine optimization, in addition to regular search engine optimization. But for people to find you, because that's your locale, you're a brick and mortar, you're not going around, unless you're like a food truck and you are kind of like, going from state to state, fine. But if you're, a stationary restaurant, your local hashtags are very, very, very important for finding people locally, for reaching people locally, and also getting on that local map on Instagram. There's that whole map section. So think about your local area. Mine is Newark, Delaware, and we have tons of hashtags because I think we're hashtag whores over in Delaware. We're just like crazy. So we have like hashtag NetDE, which was created 20 years ago by a marketing genius here named Nancy Dybert. So that's hashtag NetDE, hashtag Delaware, hashtag Delaware restaurants, hashtag Newark, Delaware, hashtag Newark DE, hashtag UD, hashtag Collegeville. Like there's so many hashtags that you could create, but just think about your city, right? So if like I'm in Philadelphia, PA, hashtag Philly, hashtag Philly, PA, hashtag Philadelphia, PA, hashtag Philadelphia, hashtag Philadelphia Eats, hashtag Philadelphia restaurants. There are so many location-based hashtags to use. So just think about, and the best way to do this is go look at your competitors that may be down the street from you. Go look at, another restaurant that's around the corner in your locale and see what restaurant hashtags and what local hashtags that they are using. I've been in Delaware my whole entire life, so I'm really good at creating like the Delaware hashtags. But, this Hash Creator will basically create those local hashtags for you. It'll ask you 5 questions. It'll say, what's the name of your client, the name of the city and state, the type of caption, and the topic of your caption. And then you give it all that information, you hit enter, and then it'll literally go to Instagram and Bing and do that research for you based on that industry. So this is not just a restaurant hashtag creator. This is an overall industry hashtag creator. So you put in your industry as well. So it'll ask what industry. Okay. If it's a restaurant, okay. If it's a hair salon, it'll all help with different type of industries. You just put in your details, the information, and it'll spit out those local hashtags for you. So again, speed of implementation, and also the correct information. So I made sure I uploaded all the banned hashtags in there. So you can't use the banned hashtags like hashtag love or hashtag Valentine's Day. Just to let you know, don't use hashtag Valentine's Day. It is a banned hashtag on Instagram. Don't use it or your stuff is going to be shadow banned. Also, hashtag love is banned as well. So all those hashtags, I did all my research on all the banned hashtags, tons of them. And then I just put it in a document, uploaded it to that GPT to make sure that GPT does not use those banned hashtags. So definitely check it out. I can shoot you a message and send that to you, or I can throw it in the chat. But yeah, it's super cool. And it's, again, speed of implementation.
Yeah, for sure. And so when we go into that hashtag for each business, it should be hashtag the business, right? It's not about creating a caption. It's about making it really obvious. So you would have hashtag ABC restaurant, hashtag Odden hospitality, or where. So it's really obvious on that one. And then you build the local hashtags around it to.
Well, it'll even, so the hashtag generator, you just click it and it'll create an optimized caption set with 5 optimized niched hashtags, 5 optimized broad hashtags, and then 5 optimized location hashtags. So it creates that 15 hashtag set for you that is optimized to that specific caption. We're not just, getting those hashtags for the locale. You can ask it that, probably. It'll probably give it to you. But it really goes off of optimizing each caption to be optimized with those hashtags that go with that caption. So it's not just like a broad sense of the location hashtags. It's really creating those hashtags based on each caption that you give it, which is important because you don't want to repeat hashtags over and over and over and over again. You don't want to repeat the sets, or you'll get banned essentially over on Instagram. So
that's really interesting. I'm glad we talked about that because that's one place where I need to get better. So I think we'll put the link to the hashtag generator in the show notes as well, because I think that is a really important one for people. It's really going to help with that. So Heather, thank you very much for coming on. We probably could talk for much longer than this, but I know you've got more lives and things to run to, and we're on the digital hospitality room later as well. But thank you very much for coming on. It's been really good, and you've got so much value from that, and I'd encourage anyone to come to the digital hospitality rooms every Wednesday and Friday. What's the time? Remind me of the time.
EST. 1 p.m.
There
EST.
we go, for sure. 6 p.m. in the UK. I think it's 9 a.m. PST. Is it something like that?
10 a.m. 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Because
the time conversion's killing me.
I know. Tell me about it. And you get to hear Heather and loads of other great people give some real gems out there as well. So it's a great place to be. So Heather, just finally, where can people get hold of you and find you if they want to get some really cool social media strategies on the go?
Yeah, for sure. So you can hashtag me at hashtag Heather Cox Codes. There. You can also find me at Heather Cox Codes on all platforms. It's the same username. My email is heathercoxcodes@gmail.com. My website is heathercoxcodes.com. All the brand consistency. So you can find me anywhere. Or if you want to read about me in media articles, you could just search Heather Cox Delaware and kind of look me up and see if I'm legit. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Heather, thank you so much. And it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Scott. Talk soon.